welcome to Season 3 of You're Not Alone with Townsend. My name is Townsend, and if you've followed my journey, you know that I'm not only a musician, but I'm also a mental health advocate. I use my platform to help spread awareness, love, build community, and simply help people feel less alone in their struggles. In the last couple of years, I've had the chance to interview people from all over the world about a huge variety of mental health topics, and I cannot thank each of you enough for helping us continue to shine a light on the world. Every other week this season, we're bringing you the best interviews we've had. Make sure to like and follow this podcast if you're enjoying it. And if you want to keep up with everything we've got going, follow us on socials at Townsendtmusic. Hope you enjoy. What is up, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of You're Not Alone with Townsend. I, of course, am your host, Townsend. Today's episode, we're going to be honing in on MS, or multiple sclerosis. You've probably heard of it. You may not know a lot about it, which is why I'm so excited to have my friend David on this episode. We're really going to be looking into what is MS? What does that mean? What does that look like? David, I found him on social media. He dives in and just lets people in on his story and his diagnosis, which I love. You guys know when I love when people are spreading hope and awareness and just a positive journey. So David, thank you so much for joining us. It means so much.
Of course.
I appreciate it. Now, where did you say you're located?
I'm located in North Jersey. So that's a little town called Teaneck, New Jersey, about maybe 10 minutes from Manhattan, to give people a perspective.
Yeah. So you're a city guy.
A little bit. I to be honest, I don't like New York. I'm a suburban boy, but I don't like New York. A lot of people ask me, hey, you live so close to New York. You probably are there all the time. And I'm like, no, I'm not.
Not your place, huh?
Not my stilo, not my cup of tea.
I get it. So I'm from Arkansas. It is pretty country down here. I have been to New York, and it's not my cup of tea either. It's fun to visit, but also fun to leave. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's fun to have it in doses.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, David, thank you so much for joining. So I always like to hop on and kind of let my guests introduce themselves. So who is David? What's your age, your job, whatever you want to share with my listeners?
Okay, so hi guys. My name is David Jones. I am a former athlete, track and field. That was my goal was ultimately to somehow finesse my way into the Olympics.
Ooh.
And so I wasn't highly recruited coming out of high school, anything like that. But once I got to college, I walked on to a little school called Monroe College in New Rochelle, New York. And that's when I really started to develop myself. And I had my coaches telling me, hey, you could really take this places. But there would be little things that would happen, little injuries or little knucklehead things that I would do. I got suspended one time, and ultimately I had to come home real quick, and I ended up tearing my meniscus, and then ultimately ended up going back to that original school. And then I called a little school here in North Jersey called Montclair State University, and they said, hey, David, we will give you your chance to finish up your college career here at Montclair State University. We understand you're getting up there in age, and we want to give you your shot. And that's when sugar honey iced tea would start to hit the fan for me. There were these things happening to my body that I didn't know what it was. Later, I would find out it was multiple sclerosis, but at the time, I had no clue. So long story short, or long story less long, to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
I was living away from home for a little bit, and one day I came up to visit my mother, and she stood this window right behind me, actually. She stood in this window because you could see the street view from here, and she saw me get out the car, and I could barely walk. So then she proceeded to walk around, go downstairs, come to the door and say, hey, when did you get this bad? And I said, Ma, I don't know. And I don't know what's going on with my body, but there's something going on with my body. And she proceeded we called a whole bunch of doctors. My ex-girlfriend at the time, my girlfriend at the time, my ex-girlfriend now, she said, David, I think this is something neurological. It's
Oh.
not orthopedic. You're so used to the orthopedic stuff. I
Hmm.
think it's something neurological. I think it's deeper than that. So that doctor that my mother called, we went, and as soon as he looked at me, he said, I'm like 80% sure it's MS, but we're gonna have to do a couple more tests. So we did the test, which was a consisted of a MRI and a spinal tap. For those that don't know what a spinal tap is they take this long machete looking needle, stick it in your spine, extract spinal fluid. Um, and they came back and said, hey, no, yes, it is MS. And that's when I would begin my battle, at least knowing what I was fighting.
Wow.
Um,
So how old were you when this was going on? What was your age when you started having the first symptoms, I guess?
I'm 28 now. I was 23.
Ooh, goodness gracious. Now, is that the average age people start seeing symptoms? Is it like something that comes along when you're an adult or when you're a kid or?
No, from what I saw, it comes at multiple different ages.
Okay.
For me, because when people ask me, they say, "Oh, you were so young when you got diagnosed." There's no age limit. For me personally, I think it was best that I was young when I got diagnosed, so I was able to bounce back so quickly. But if we're being honest, and I'm just giving you guys the statistics of what I heard, I was the last on the totem pole of people that get diagnosed, even as an African American male.
Hmm.
At the time, African American males were the least likely to get that same diagnosis.
Man, oh man, goodness. Okay, so let's rewind a little bit. Let's define what even multiple sclerosis is. So, what does that mean? Are you enjoying this conversation? This project is funded by patrons and sponsors. So, if you like what you hear and you'd like to help us continue changing lives in 2024, we would love to have you join the family. Reach out to us at Townsendtmusic at hotmail.com if you'd like to be a sponsor, or hop on patreon.com/TownsendTmusic to join the patron family. As a thank you, you're going to receive extra podcast questions and content every episode, discounts, exclusive content, and so much more. So join the family and let's continue changing lives.
Multiple sclerosis, from what I've read, and from what I've understood, it's an autoimmune disease. It's a disease that attacks the brain and the spinal cord, and it tries to disable you through such.
Yeah.
Um, and no two people are the same from what I've learned.
Yeah.
So it's like, because you have lesions on your brain and on your spinal cord, but your lesions could be different in a different spot than my lesions, right? So the lesions that are on your brain could affect your speech more, or could affect your eyesight more, versus the lesions that are on my brain could affect my mobility and something else. Since what we know about the brain is that different parts of the brain help function different parts of the body.
Yeah.
So depending on where those said lesions are, that's where it's going to affect you at.
Yeah. Okay. So yours could affect your speech more. Somebody else's could affect their physical more, like walking. Are there different types of MS? Like I've heard there are different types. You can have, one that comes and goes, one that's just kind of stays one level.
Yes, some people have progressive MS. Some people it's steady with them.
You kind of went into this a little bit, but looking back, now that you know you have MS, looking back, are you like, okay, this makes sense a little bit? Maybe a symptom that happened that didn't make sense at the time.
Physically, it made no sense. Spiritually, for me, it does. When I was younger, about 4 years old, I had this condition. It's called Guillain-Barré. It's kind of like in the same territory. Um, Affects the nerves and everything. Except with Guillain-Barré, whatever damage is done, you can come back from it. So when I was younger and I had that disease, they told my mother, they said, "Hey, um, if I, they said it will take your son 10 months. Mind you, I'm about 4 or 5 years old. They said it'll take your son 10 months to be able to walk again on his own." I believe my mom said I was walking again in 4.
Wow.
Showed resilience right then and there.
Yeah.
That So when I got fast forward when I got diagnosed with MS, my mother said, "Hey, you saw this movie before. So do what I know you know how to do.
Yeah. Fight it.
Fight it.
Interesting.
Do
Okay.
it again."
Yeah. It makes you wonder, were those hand in hand? Like, did the Guillain-Barré kind of start something or trigger something, or was it maybe misdiagnosed? Maybe we had MS early on. Who knows? I don't know.
And let me tell you something. The first little sign of the MS, how I described it was I said, "Hey, it feels like the Guillain-Barré is trying to come back." Because when
Oh.
you have Guillain-Barré, it could go dormant in your body.
Mhm.
So that's what I thought it was. But then
Yeah.
when they ran certain tests, they said, "No, that's not it. So we're gonna have to do a little more."
Interesting. Okay. Interesting. Okay. So the MS, so you can have multiple different kinds, like we talked about. It can kind of stay really bad. There can be some where it's almost, I think they call it relapsing, remitting. It kind of comes and goes. Does that sound about right?
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so is there anything for you that like causes your flare-ups? So, like some people who have anxiety, there's certain things that cause them to go into a panic. Is there anything that causes you to like have an MS flare-up?
Um, to my knowledge, no. What I know is I'm a gym rat. I work out every day. That's how I keep going. And so what I know is one, when my body overheats, the symptoms will start to flare up, but
Yeah.
it's just a matter of my body cooling down. So let's say I go to the gym, my body overheats, and I do my cardio. You might see me walking a little funny, limping a little funny, but as my body starts to cool down, I go back to normal.
Oh,
Um, because for me, my theory is you keep your muscles strong. When the MS tries to mess you up, the muscle memory takes over. As far as flare ups go, I know when I get a little stressed out about something,
yeah.
that's when it starts to bother me. Um, but it's funny you asked me about a flare up. So, literally last week, out of nowhere, since I got diagnosed in May of 2019. I just now had my worst flare up I've ever had.
Really?
Yes. And this was last week. I came home. I had a normal day. I went to the gym. I went to the mall. And because just to, I literally yesterday just flew in from Miami. I had a vacation. Um, Today is Tuesday, Friday. I had a normal day. All of a sudden, my MS symptoms just shot through the roof. Just
Yeah.
shot through
Goodness.
weakness. Um, because for me personally, my MS affects my right side more than my left.
Mm.
So how I gauge what type of day I'm gonna have. This is my left hand. I'll do this. I can do this efficiently. With my right hand, if you notice, it's slower. I'm putting in just as much effort, but it's a little slower.
Yeah.
So I noticed my right, and this is slower automatically, but I was doing this.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I said something is up.
Goodness.
That was the weakness. I could barely get up and stand. And for me, I was racing the clock because
Mhm.
if there was one thing I was going to do, I was going to go to Miami and enjoy myself.
That's right. I wonder if it was the stress of knowing you had a trip coming up.
You want to know what? In hindsight, that probably could have been it.
Maybe. Because sometimes, even in the back of my head, sometimes when I travel, like, so I play music and I go on tour sometimes. I just got back from Virginia. And even in the back of my head, it's exciting, but it's also really stressful. There's a lot to
Stressful.
get together. You got to
Yeah.
drive or fly. So I wonder if your body just was kind of nervous about it a little bit.
And that very much so could have been it.
Yeah. Who knows?
I ended up flying out to Miami this past Friday. Um, I went to the emergency room that Wednesday because
Oh, wow.
I thought maybe it was a 24-hour bug or it was going to pass because normally it didn't. So the hospital ended up having to give me a steroid to reduce the inflammation. Um, and within that day, I ended up feeling significantly better.
Wow. So it really flared up. Like you had to go to the hospital flared up.
Oh yes. Oh yeah.
Oh,
That
wow.
that.
Goodness gracious.
Ended up calling my doctor, telling her what was going on, and she said, "Hey, if the emergency room can't help you, you're gonna have to make an appointment with us." Through the grace of my higher power, I ended up feeling a little better, and I better enough to the point where I said, "David is getting on that plane going to Miami." So
David is going on vacation. Let me tell you this.
yes, so that's where I'm just now getting back from Miami because I was by the grace of God was able to make that trip.
That is awesome. Man, goodness. Okay, so is MS, do we know if it's hereditary or genetic? Do we know how it comes about?
From what I know, I'm the first person in my family with it.
Okay.
From what I know, I'm the first person in my family with the. I just told you about the Guillain-Barré thing.
Hmm.
From what I know, I'm the first person in my family with that.
Yeah. Did your family know anything about what MS was before you got diagnosed? Or when you got diagnosed, were they like, what?
It was the what. It
Yeah,
was the what. It was more so we knew what MS was through the grapevine.
sure.
And from what we've seen, we saw people um in wheelchairs and everything. We didn't know
Right.
what my life was going to be like, and especially from me coming from being an athlete.
Hmm.
We were like, and a healthy athlete at that, and someone who eats healthy. We were like, what? A lot of people were looking at me like, what's going to happen to you, kid?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, people only knew my perseverance. People knew I take stuff on the chin and I kind of keep barreling forward.
Yeah.
A lot of people around me were scared
Yeah.
because they didn't know how I was going to respond to this, and I didn't know how I was going to respond to this. But like
Sure.
I said, I was able to develop this deep belief on why I was chosen to have this disease.
Yeah. That's an
And
awesome way to look at it.
that's how I came to peace with where I'm at.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you're hopping on social media, you're changing lives, sharing your stories, sharing stories of hope. And you know what? Today was a bad day, but we're going to persevere. We kind of talked about this a little bit, but do you know any statistics about it? Like you talked about African American males when you got it were on the bottom of the totem pole. Do you know about like, does it affect certain people or certain areas more than others?
Not too much. What I did hear, like I said, on that totem pole, I heard like if you had to line people up,
Hmm.
white women, and then it would kind of go from there. But all I know is that as far as the totem pole goes, as an African American male, I was the last one. But now I think as research has opened up, that whole totem pole thing is totally breaking.
Yeah.
It
So it
can
can,
be.
yeah, anybody.
I just think at the time, statistically, those were the people that they had documented, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Because from what I know and now from what I've learned, I don't think this disease has time to discriminate.
Yeah.
I don't think this disease has time to say, hey, you're white, you're black, you're a male, you're a woman, you're this age, you're that age.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the disease, whoever it's gonna hit, it's gonna hit.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think now they're learning that. Because
Sure.
even when they first told me, hey, David, as an African American male, you were the last person, that didn't make sense to me. Because I'm like, this disease doesn't know whether I'm black or not.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It just kind of threw a shot in the dark and it was like, all right, hit me. Cool.
Yeah, I'm like, that doesn't make any sense to me. I'm like, I think
Interesting.
and well, my theory is I think more people have it than is documented, or more people have it than that they even know. You get what
Oh
I'm
yeah.
saying?
Oh yeah.
Because it took about 2 years for even me to get diagnosed, even with the symptoms I was having,
Really.
because there were little things happening to my body I couldn't explain it.
Yeah.
This disease is going to creep up on different people at different paces.
Yeah.
But I think more people have because on social media now I have people reach out to me. They say, "Hey, David, I feel X, Y, and Z. Um, and I watched your video, Do you think I possibly could have it? Or do you think that's what this is? And me personally, I won't come out right away and say, yeah, you have it.
Yeah.
I believe in the power of words.
Yeah.
But I will say, hey, if X, Y, and Z is what you feel, go get it checked out.
That's right.
Or if X, Y, and Z is what you feel, go to a doctor and say, hey, um, I saw this guy on social media. He has MS. He had these symptoms. I feel those same exact symptoms. What tests can we run to see if that's where I'm at?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
So some symptoms I've heard about include crazy things. I mean, things that, of course, the doctors would be like, huh, let's give it a little bit of time, like numbness in your hands,
Yes.
tingling, dizziness. Some people have trouble with vision. I mean, it's very vague things. It's not like you go in and you say, hey, this is what I have. And they're like, oh, that sounds like MS. You know what I mean? So I can see where it would take a little bit of time because it's small things, is what it sounds like. You kind of go in for a weird symptom or two, and they're just kind of like, let's wait it out and let's see. Does that sound about right?
Yes.
Yeah, wild. So, do you know, does MS, does it shortens your life expectancy? Or is it like, no,
From
you're going to live a normal life?
from what I've read, yes.
Yeah.
I think the article I was reading when I first got diagnosed, they said statistically it could shorten your lifespan by like 15 years.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
Um, However, me personally, I take that with a grain of salt
That's right.
because I was also told I could possibly be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life, but that's not where I'm at. I go to the gym, like I said, every single day. There are people finally that have seen me. They have a conversation with me, and the fact that I have MS comes up in conversation, and they're like, "Hey, brother, if you didn't say that, we would not have known."
Yeah.
You know, so I take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
However, statistically, it can shorten your lifespan, but I've already claimed when it's time for me to get carried to my hearse, I'll be in my 90s.
Yeah. There you go. I love it. There you go. Absolutely. Okay, so we talked about this a little bit. Is there a cure or even a way to kind of slow down the progression of the disease? So, do they offer you medicine or therapy? I know we already talked about exercise is incredibly important. I feel like that would probably slow down the process, but is there a cure? Is there a way to slow it down?
As far as the cure goes, no, they
Nothing.
don't have one. Not on paper, at least. I have my
Yeah.
conspiracy theories about that. But
Oh, don't
but
we all?
yeah, but no, no cure on paper. However, they have different um what I do. Like when I first got diagnosed, I do an IV infusion,
Okay.
and they so what they do is they would run medicine through my body for about an hour. Um, but eventually they have to switch up your medication because that same infusion it would make me prone to a brain disease. So
Oh gosh.
now they switched it up. Um, Certain people might have seen a commercial for it. It's called Ocrevus. I do it twice a year. So every 6 months I do an infusion. I have to sit in the hospital for about 4 hours. They run the medicine through me. What the medicine does, to my knowledge, and to what they've explained to me, the medicine puts a force field around your brain so that the cells cannot go into your brain and start attacking your body. So I do that every 6 months. Um, and I take vitamin D, about 50,000 IUs. That's the unit I take, 50,000 IUs weekly. So for me personally, I have a simple case,
Yeah.
is what the doctor tells me. But the next person might have to do the infusion, the vitamin D, and something additional.
Yeah.
Because like I said, the disease, it's really tailored from person to person.
Sure.
Same way they say no two, even identical twins, no two are the exact same.
Yeah.
So if person A and person B both have multiple sclerosis, person A and person B's treatment might still have to be completely different.
Sure. Yeah.
I have to do isn't what you have to do to survive, and vice versa.
Yeah, absolutely. I've heard of all different things. I've heard of people having to give themselves a shot in the leg like every 6 months or so. I've heard of the infusion. You go in the hospital. I've heard of people taking pills every single day. Um, did they ever? I'm sure this affected your mental health, especially being this healthy athlete. Did you ever go to counseling? Did you ever talk to somebody about, like, man, this is not fair? Like, how am I going to cope with this? How did you deal with all that mental stuff going on?
Oh, here's where we get deep. Hope we have a little bit of time because here's where we get deep.
Let's do it.
Um, so the mental health is where it affected me the most and the worst.
Sure.
When I first got diagnosed, I had to use two forearm crutches to help me walk because the disease was rapidly affecting my body. So I couldn't even walk on my own. What a lot of people don't realize, and what I didn't realize at the time, was when you get diagnosed with MS, especially somebody like me that had the dreams that I had, there comes a grieving process
Oh, yeah.
because your life, it's not going to be the same. The way you're able to be spontaneous is not going to be the same. The way you're able to move is not going to be the same. And I didn't accept that right away.
Sure.
I
Yeah.
was so focused on being this hero. David couldn't accept the fact that David's life had dramatically changed. So there came this very, very, very deep depression that I didn't even realize I was going through. And it would take time for me to accept it. It would take time for me to accept my track and field cleats that were hanging up on the wall for them to really be up there. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The depression, the acceptance
Hmm.
is tough.
I can only imagine. Did you ever talk to anybody about it, or was your family like, hey, listen, we're having a lot of trouble. We need to go talk to somebody, or we need to figure out how to get through this mentally? What made you come out? Just knowing that, okay, I got to accept this.
I never believed I couldn't.
Yeah.
I
I
never
like that.
believed I couldn't fight it.
Yeah.
I also believed that I started to come to terms about the whole Olympic dream, athleticism, the track and field. That was given to me as a gift through the universe
Yeah.
because the universe knew one day what obstacles I would face, right? The universe knew one day you're going to face these obstacles. So through life, I'm going to give you the gift of resilience. I'm going to give you the gift of perseverance. I'm going to give you multiple gifts through the idea of track and field so that the day the diagnosis hits you, you can apply it there. Because you had your fancy plans of going off and doing something fancy with this sport.
Yeah.
But what the universe really has for you is for you to take what you learned through that sport, persevere through it, because you have multiple people now. After you come out on the other side, you have multiple people that you now have to go back and help.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why it's a gift.
Yeah. Oh, I believe that. Absolutely. How cool. That is such a great way to look at it. Like, I had all this stuff. It taught me how to persevere and how to be disciplined and how to fight and all these things. And now I'm just using those skill sets I learned. I like that. I like that.
Exactly. I and to be honest, like I said, I want to help everyone,
Yeah.
but it's not just about multiple sclerosis. It could have just been somebody that got diagnosed with a bad injury and told something that, hey, you broke your leg, you'll never be able to do this on that leg again. But if you believe hard enough, yes, you can. It's
Yeah.
not just about multiple sclerosis. That's not just what I want to represent. That's what I'm going to represent through. But I just don't want to represent just multiple sclerosis. I even want to shoot. I want to represent the guy who stubbed his pinky toe too hard. And
Yeah.
the doctor said, your toe will never be the same. And you'll never be able to do this. Well, you know what? You might be able to if you stay strong enough.
That's right. That's right. I love it. I love it. So, where do you find, like, when you got diagnosed with this, your family had no idea what it was. Where'd you find the most support? Where'd you find information? Where'd you find people to be like, you're gonna be all right? Was it social media? Was it doctors?
I first found the most support through my beautiful mother.
Yeah.
Um, when I got diagnosed, I dropped a tear.
No.
And my mom said, because like I told you guys about the Guillain-Barré thing,
Yeah.
my mother said, "Hey," and I picked my head up. I looked over across the room at her in the doctor's office, and she said, "Hey, you saw this movie before. You've seen it. So do what I know you know how to do." And I said, "You know what, Mom, you're right." And then so she said that, and then I said to myself, because the other question I immediately asked myself, the human question, why me?
Yeah.
And I said, you know what, David? If you're gonna ask yourself why you, ask yourself why not you.
Mm-hmm.
It had to be somebody. So if it had to be you, what you're going to do is you're going to take this situation, you're going to take this disease, and you're going to make it look as beautiful as possible so that the next person that gets the same diagnosis, they can look at you and say, hey, he did it. I could do it.
That's awesome. I love
One
it.
of my idols, Kobe Bryant, the Mamba mentality. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yes, the Mamba mentality. Although I was track and field and I had another lane, the Mamba mentality, you can take that and apply it anywhere. So
Yeah.
what I did, I just took that Mamba mentality and just applied it to my life.
Yeah.
What my dream is, my goal is the same thing Kobe was to me and that inspiration. I want to be somebody's Kobe one day.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. So just spreading hope and awareness and like, hey, you could do whatever you want to do. Set your mind to it.
You can do whatever you want to do. You can set your mind to do whatever it is. Just because a doctor comes to you and says, "Hey, this is going to be your life. This is what you can and cannot do." My main thing is never let anybody tell you what you can't do
Yeah.
because you never know until you try. You have to get in the ring and fight before you know if you're going to lose the fight or not. You have to take that 3-point shot before you know if you're going to miss it or not.
Yeah.
You have to run the way. You have to run the race to know if you're going to win it or not.
Yeah.
But it's like start it, do it,
That's right. All you got to do is
and
start it.
if that it doesn't happen that way, there's another way to make it happen. Because I'll also say one of my favorite rappers said, "Plan B is just another way to make Plan A work."
I like that.
That's
I
it.
like, I like it. I like it. What do you feel like? Okay, so you just now had one of your biggest flare ups. It's been like 5, 6 years since you got diagnosed. How or has MS changed your life? Like your life compared to mine. So, how you get around, how you plan things, how your day goes. How do you feel like MS affects your life? Like you just said, sometimes we have little hiccups in our thinking. What else does it really affect in your day to day?
Um, MS affects my life in a sense of where I have to be way, way more calculated than the next person. So when you personally see David Jones walking down the street, every step I'm taking, I'm calculating that
Yeah.
versus maybe the next person just walking. When I had the MS flare up just now, one night I was laying in the bed and I said, wow, I said, we take for granted being able to just simply pick up our right arm. I couldn't even do that much. MS affects me in a sense of sometimes it's hard for me to even take a shower, you know, for me to live a normal life. And to the naked eye, I'm living a normal life just like the next person.
Sure.
Oh, every single move that, even me doing this,
Yeah.
my hand movements, every single move I make has to be way more calculated than the next person.
Yeah.
That's why I believe MS, me personally, I believe MS saved my life as well. Because there was at one point, I was young, dumb, and wild, and I
Yeah.
would just do anything. I would just jump off the cliff and just go into anything. No, I have to be very much calculated now and, and think before I act.
Yeah. Sure.
The strength of me having MS because the simplest thing can knock my balance off versus the next person.
Yeah.
So even if let's just say there was a kid in the room and they threw like a little ball across the room and it hit my head and my head did this, it would mess me up more than the average person.
Yeah. Absolutely. Do you feel like at the end of the day, is your energy bank just totally spent? I mean, you've spent all day calculating moves and watching your balance and thinking about this and that. Are you just exhausted at the end of the day?
I'll put it this way. I'm glad you asked that. The way I put it is you have an energy source for your house, right?
Mhm.
Let's say there was a storm. The energy came out, the energy cut out, but you all of a sudden you had a generator, a
Mhm.
backup generator. So with with me at least, I like to talk for me. But I know a lot of people with MS can relate. But so what happens is let's say I have this amount of energy throughout my day. Once I run it out, my body goes on a backup generator, and I have this much of my backup generator to get done what else I need to get done before I really start running on fumes.
Yeah.
That's why I stress, me personally, that's why I stress fitness in the gym so much.
Yep.
Because when you work your muscles and you go to the gym every day and you keep yourself physically strong, you keep your muscles physically strong, you increase your backup generator battery life by even more.
Yeah.
Because there comes a point throughout my day where my body strictly is running off muscle memory,
Yeah.
nothing else.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I think that could
That's
go
why
for
I
anybody.
stress the fitness and healthy eating.
Absolutely. I've read somewhere MS can actually be flared up by dietary things. It could be flared up
Yes.
by being unhealthy. So, yeah, I think what you're saying, not only for MS, but really for anybody, any diagnosis, I think it's important to know we take for granted even, reaching up and scratching your ear, reaching down and tying your shoe. Like a lot of people can't do that. So, it's incredibly important that we take care of our bodies, that we respect our bodies. Absolutely. Okay.
100%.
David, what do you wish people knew about MS? So what is something that you just wish people would take away from this conversation?
For me, I wish people knew I'm still a normal human being, but I also wish, I wish people knew I was still a normal human being in a sense of I still, you don't have to pity me so much
Yeah,
in that sense. Um, because as long as I'm fighting, here I am. If I need help, I will say that.
yeah,
What I also wish people knew is that it can affect you on a day-to-day basis differently. It can affect you minute by minute differently. So just because yesterday, right? Just because yesterday you saw me at the gym working out like an Olympian, like there was nothing wrong, doesn't mean that tomorrow you're not going to see me struggling. And then that's when the people come up to you like, yo, but I just saw yesterday today's a different day.
that's right.
Or even at the gym, same day. Yo, you were just at the gym, just working out like you were about to go to the NFL combine, and now an hour later, here you are, and you can't even pick up your leg. I can't. I really can't. I wish people knew it affects you differently day to day, hour to hour, minute by minute. And sometimes us as the people that have MS, we don't know what's coming the next minute.
Yeah,
So I can log off from this phone call or this Zoom and be start struggling talking as much as I've been articulating myself so much. An hour from now, I could be struggling to talk to you
yeah,
because the disease is that unpredictable.
yeah. Mm. So correct me if I'm wrong. Multiple sclerosis, we have this thing called myelin sheath. It's like this protection around everything. And multiple sclerosis kind of attacks that, right? So
Yes.
to describe it a little bit better for people, so basically your nerves and everything, they're all communicating with one another, but an easy way to put it in layman terms is almost like your connectors aren't quite connecting. So it goes to the end and it gets there and it's just not quite going to the back. So what you want to do, like you want to move your leg and you want to walk, but that connection's not quite getting there
I get in
to
there.
your leg. Does that sound
Correct.
about right?
That sounds about correct. It's you want to move that leg, you want to move that toe,
And
and
it's
you
like,
have
nah,
the thought to do it. So the brain will start sending that signal to do it. But once it comes down to executing it, it's not going to happen the way you want it to happen.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh,
So it's not the problem of you know what you want to do. That body's just not responding. Those communications are just not happening like a typical body would. And some days they may, some minute they may, but the next minute they may not.
exactly. Like I showed earlier.
Yeah.
I want to do this with my right hand, right?
Yeah.
My, that's my intention.
Yeah.
But when I come to start doing it with my right hand, this is what I'm really doing.
Yeah.
But the intent and drive is doing this.
That's
So
right.
in my head, I'm doing this, but
Yeah.
in reality, all my body could pull off is this.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm.
And
Goodness.
that's exactly how it goes down.
I love it. David, you're so positive and such a ray of light. I love the way you look out on everything, your outlook. I love how positive you are. I love how much you're radiating and you're promoting just like overall physical health, mental health. Like, you know what? You're given today, fight for it. And I love that outlook. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to all my listeners. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Oh, it is such a pleasure. I can't wait to see what all you do. It's going to be
Always
amazing.
looking for ways to spread everything, and you are a blessing. You are the very first person that has given me a chance to sit here and explain what it's like, and you don't understand how much of a blessing you are for giving me the chance and the opportunity and the platform to sit with you and talk to you about this. So I just want you to know how much of a blessing you are, and I want your viewers to know how much of a blessing you are, and you deserve the world for that, because you didn't have to take the time for me to come sit here and talk to you. You didn't have to take the time to sit here and listen. You didn't have to take the time to give me an opportunity, but here you are. So thank you so much, and keep being the beautiful blessing that you are and beautiful person that you are, and the world is going to reward you for that. I hope you know
Hey,
that.
here's hoping. Yeah, David, it literally, it is my pleasure every time I have somebody on here. It's just, God, it's so cool to hear y'all's stories. If there's anything I can do to help you in the future, feel free to reach out. We'll make something happen. Everybody that is listening, you know how this goes. We're going to wrap it up. But David and I are going to keep talking for my patrons. If you want to hear these little bit more personal questions, hop onto patreon.com/TownsendTmusic. That's actually how we keep this project going, how we keep changing lives and shining love and light. David, we're going to keep talking. All right. Is that cool?
Cool with that.
All right. Everybody else, we'll see you next time.
If you'd like to hear the rest of this interview, visit patreon.com/TownsendTmusic. And don't forget, you can also watch the interviews on our YouTube channel at Townsendtmusic YouTube.
If you're looking to buy or sell, I have the perfect realty company for you. Clark & Co. Realty is located in the Benton, Bryant, Arkansas area. And they understand that buying or selling a home is more than just a transaction. It's a life-changing experience. That's why their team of highly seasoned real estate professionals is dedicated to providing exceptional, personalized services for all their clients. They truly take great pride in the relationships they build, and they always work relentlessly on the client's behalf to help them achieve their perfect real estate goals. They always have the client in mind, and I can speak firsthand when I say how reliable, trustworthy, and quick they were. When I was looking to buy my first home, they were there with me every step of the way, answering every question I could think of. They showed me a great amount of knowledge and patience through the process. It's no wonder they've won so many awards for their outstanding services and their excellent relationships with clients. So if you're looking to buy or sell, there is no better option than Clark & Co. Realty.